Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Wednesday, May 22nd for Major League Baseball. Recording here late Tuesday afternoon. Not a single Tuesday game has happened yet. So we're going to recap Monday. It was a fantastic Monday for us. Got the pick over on Twitter, got the play of the day, missed the parlay of the day because Framber Valdez gives up 7 runs in the 5th inning. We'll talk about him, I guess, next time he comes around to start, unless it's on Sunday. I don't know when he'll pitch again, since we don't do Sunday shows. But wow, what a terrible inning that was. And we missed the only other loss we had was we had a first 5 loss, where, again, what's been happening with first 5s is a lot of them, lost with 2 outs in the 5th inning, and we just can't quite get there with some of those first 5s as of late. We had just some bad luck with it, but overall, it's just a fantastic Monday and a fantastic day for the model overall. Decided rather to put the full season, because we did change the way the grading operates on May 6th, just to put the record since then, simply because I think before that loses some context. It also gives you an idea of just recently how it's been doing. Of note, though, May 5th was a really, really good day. That is not an arbitrary point. If I wanted an arbitrary point, I'd have included May 5th, because May 5th was a Sunday where we won like 2/3 of our plays and made like 10 units or something ridiculous. So not an arbitrary point. But overall, as you can kind of see there, the first 5, those sides been what's been the problem there, slightly down, but overall that's up about 7-8 units or so in the last couple of weeks. And as you can see there, overall on Monday, if you just blindly followed all of the model plays, you get 13-3, which is just incredible. Sometimes we're going to get some good variance like that. It's not always going to be that good. But again, overall, we have a pretty strong model that is very predictive again, and just making sure we're all on the same page here. I apologize if I don't describe this in detail, but there is more information, of course, on the website about this. This is a player-based model, and that's why it's so accurate, because I have spent a lot of time, I have a PhD in statistics, spent a lot of time figuring out what's predictive, what's not predictive, trying to find the right balance. On average, it doesn't mean it works every single time. It just means on average, it's going to do a pretty good job of figuring out what the most predictive thing is for who's there today. If you're interested in all of those picks, Dub Club is the place to be to get them. First link in the show description, that QR code will get you to the Discord chat. All the A grades, play of the day, game prediction summarized. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of that here today. All sorts of goodies. Or if you want just to play the day, there's your discounted play of the day only package available as well over on Dub Club. You can link in the show description. But again, if you're interested in more details about the model, why it works, pickswiththeprofessor.com/new is the place to check that out. Weather is subject to change for all the games we're about to talk about here. We're about 24 hours-ish away from first pitch on all of these, some a little bit less, some a little bit more, depending on the fact that we have games throughout the day on Wednesday. We are projecting the average game. One game, anything can happen. Okay, so we're going to make a pick, and yesterday went great. I don't know how Tuesday is going to go, but for instance, I'm wearing my A's gear here. We're pulling for the A's on Tuesday night. They may lose. They might lose by 15 runs, right? Weird things happen sometimes when they may win by 15 runs. I have no idea what's going to happen. Nobody does. But the idea is that if we can project the average fairly well, then that's what tells us what price to bet, what number to bet, and that's what matters. That's how the sports books look at it. That's how the smartest sports bettors in the world look at it, and that's how we're going to look at it too. That makes anything a good bet at the right price or right number. Doesn't mean we're going to ever get it. A lot of times we're going to pass. We're going to talk about situations where I say it's this or pass, and passing is a very reasonable option, especially if you don't like it. As always, I want you to take what you like and leave the rest. Passing is never a bad idea. I'm just trying to point out where there might be good value and give you some things to think about here on the show. Last but not least, if you could like the show, we would appreciate that. That helps us out a lot. Starting off here, Twins and the Nats. Look, y'all, I am back-to-back starts of Simeon, Woods, Richardson, remembering to make the font smaller. I'm on a roll here. I feel like I probably only remembered it because it's the first game. I feel like when the Twins play later on, I'm probably going to forget later. Hopefully I won't. Undefeated with regards to the longest last name here in baseball. But a good pitcher, a guy that I've liked here in town. He's a really good pitcher. I've been saying it for weeks that we've been backing him. 2.97 ERA, FIP right in line with that. XFIP a little bit higher. What does that mean? That means that going forward, he's probably been a little bit lucky with his home run rate. Keep that note in mind. I talk about the weather here. Jake Irvin for the Nats has been much, much better than we thought he would be coming into the season. Now, 3.91 ERA, FIP much better than that. XFIP right in line with that. If he continues to pitch like this, that 3.91 ERA, that's very sustainable. His underlying metrics line up with it. Now, what he did in the past doesn't, and this is where, again, on average, we are doing a really good job of balancing previous season's information with current season's information. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to hold for every single player, especially for pitchers who've added a new pitch, changed something up. Every once in a while, you really want to overreact. Sometimes you want to really underreact and you want to take everything with a grain of salt. On average, doing a good job. Jake Irvin's definitely been a guy who's been much better than we thought. His grade's going in the right direction, but the model's still a little bit skeptical. Has a lot of history on him being subpar. Good start so far to this season for him. Here's the thing about this game. We're going to be in the upper 80s for this one. Wind out to left field at about 10 miles an hour. Nats Park is already a hitter-friendly ballpark. You put a hitter-friendly ballpark with mid-80-degree temperatures, 10-mile-an-hour wind out to left field, more hitters than not are right-handed, you are going to be talking about a lot of runs. And if Simeon Richardson is, again, getting a little bit lucky with that home run rate, at some point that's going to come back to him, and he's not going to continue to limit the home runs like he has. Part of the reason he's probably done that, there's been a lot of good pitcher-friendly weather here so far this season, especially up in the north of Minnesota, been a little bit cooler. Not going to be the case here. So we are projecting 9.72 runs. The market on this game is at 8.5, even money on the over. That translates to an implied total of about 8.4 runs. I think the market is really missing the number of runs on this one. This is one we're seeing out the Dub Club. I have no idea where this number will go. I would not be surprised if this total closed at 9 or even 9.5 as people realize what the warmth is going to do. These bullpens are pretty solid, but this total in my mind should be 9.5, or at minimum, it should be 9 with a lot of juice to the over. My hunch is that's where it's going to go. Not always correct about that. About 2 out of 3 times the number goes towards where the model goes. One of the benefits of being on Dub Club is that you already got this information. You already know that I love this pick, and you don't have to wait around until the evening when the show comes out or the next morning when you're awake watching all this in case that number has moved. But we're going to go ahead and lock in the over 8.5 as the free show A grade play, my favorite play that I'm going to give out for free here on this show. And there's a sneak peek of all the other information you get on Dub Club. Again, all the underlying metrics, all the grades, everything that you can need, run line, reverse run line, price thresholds, etc. I didn't talk much about the side. We'll point out that we have the Twins winning this 58% of the time, and that minus 122 or better gets you to that B grade. You're almost there, so it will be Twins or pass. Again, I'm a big fan of Simeon Richardson. Main plan on this, just love this over. Even money, A grade pick for you here to start off the day at 1 o'clock, but got a bunch of other good leans and looks and ideas for you here coming up later in the show. Continuing with the Mets and the Guardians, we're going to have another similar situation weather-wise here. Low 80s, wind will be blowing out at about 15 miles an hour. That's going to turn what is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark into a one-day-only, very hitter-friendly ballpark. Folks, Jose Quintana doesn't need that. He's already not a good pitcher, even though he's probably not as bad as that 5.21 ERA. His advanced metrics put him in the mid-upper fours. That is not good. Guardians' offense have been pretty solid this year. Expect them to put up some runs. Mets' offense has been pretty solid. Expect them to put up a few runs on Tristan McKenzie, who does have a nice 3.23 ERA, but my hunch is a lot of that is because of the fact that he's playing in a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark there in Cleveland. And again, it's been a lot of pitcher-friendly weather, especially that far north. But as the weather starts to warm up, he should start giving up some runs. His xFIP of 5.10 indicates that some regression is coming at some point. Doesn't necessarily mean it'll happen here, but this is another game that despite really good bullpens, we are expecting a lot of runs here, not quite as many as in Washington. Part of that's fueled by the fact that the park dimensions, foul ground, blah, 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 lend itself to more runs being scored in Washington than in Cleveland anyway. But we would definitely be on the over if we were to play this total. Right now, the total, the books are hanging is 8 with a little bit of juice. We're at 9.1. Otherwise, though, we are right in line on the side. We've got the Guardians winning this 56% of the time. The market has the Guardians winning 56% of the time. So might be an edge there on the first 5. Be looking at playing over on this one, but not running to lock one in yet because I want to see the first 5 numbers, see if that's more advantageous than the full game. We'll see which way we go in the morning on this one. Orioles and the Cardinals, 1:15 p.m. Eastern, the third of the 3 games here starting at 1 o'clock for your Wednesday afternoon. Mid-70s. Interesting weather on this one. We're looking at 5 to 10 mile an hour wind, maybe out, maybe across. It's not going to be the biggest difference, but we do kind of want to check back in because it could, if the wind's more out than across, could play fairly hitter friendly, maybe not quite as extreme as the other ones, but just want to kind of keep a small eye on if you're playing the total. John Means and Kyle Gibson. John Means in his 3 starts is looking like the old John Means. 3.06 ERA. FIP lines up right with that. XFIP a little bit higher. His grade's going in the right direction. He just needs to continue to do that for the model to kind of catch up and say, yes, we believe in him fully. But so far, so good for John Means. Kyle Gibson, 4.09 ERA. The line metric's a little bit higher than that, though. I'm not quite sold on him, even though the model's got Gibson is the slightly better pitcher. I want to make sure we're all clear on this. The difference between a 108 and a 105 is really rounding error to the model. That's not going to make any sizable difference whatsoever. The talent, gap here on major league players is such that that's just not a huge difference. And so again, the model is treating these pitchers as pretty much equal. But again, I'd rather be backing John Means if I had to back one of these guys. Orioles bullpen, not bad. Cardinals bullpen, though, the model really does like. Cardinals offense, the model still thinks they'll be okay. The Orioles offense is fantastic. This Orioles team is really good. I'd rather back the Orioles and the Cardinals, but the model says there's no value in doing so. We've got the Orioles winning this 51% of the time. The market's got it at 55% of the time. I tend to think that the model is reacting a little bit slow to John Means. I think the reason why, he's a very unique case. The model is not built to handle these type of situations where his data from last year was so conflated with the injury situation that happened with him. I think he's just a very unique guy that it's going to take the model a couple more times through to kind of come around on, because it's not quite detailed enough to forget some of that maybe as quick as it should. And so I don't necessarily think, I still think 55% is probably a little bit too high, but in reality, I would put this personally more Orioles, 53%, something like that. The Cardinals might hold a little bit of value, but I'm not touching them, even though we are close to that B grade threshold, because again, I think the model's missing a little bit on John Means. With regards to the total, again, we would be leaning over 8.5. That's not a bad play. I always love going over 8.5 and under 9.5, right? Over 6.5, under 7.5, those type of things, because of how ties can play out and give us some extra free runs. But would just want to double check on the weather there, not rushing to back the total. And again, if the model is a little bit lower on John Means than it should, that projected total of 8.98 from the model probably looks a little bit more like 8.9 or 8.8 or maybe even 8.7, which gives us a little bit of a smaller edge than seen. So right now, I'm not running to play anything in the afternoon bird contest. 2:10 p.m. Eastern, a pair of games here at this time slot before we move to the evening games. Angels and the Astros, a hot one in Houston, upper 80s. They will be able to close the roof on that one. Tyler Anderson and Hunter Brown. Folks, I've got Hunter Brown as the better pitcher here. And if you look at ERA, you think I'm crazy, and that's fine. If you cannot comprehend what I'm saying, either A, I'm the teacher here, I'm the professor here, I want to help you, and just hang in there and keep listening to it and see if it'll make sense at some point. But remember, ERA is not the best predictor of pitcher performance. It does give you a decent idea kind of what happened, but also kind of not. It's kind of an interesting thing when you think about ERA, right? Just runs allowed would probably be a better metric, and at least it would be extremely accurate in telling you what did happen. ERA doesn't really tell you what happened, because the difference between an earned run and an unearned run is the difference between an error or the difference between a pop fly where a guy fell down and didn't touch the ball, right? It's not really clear what it's telling you, and we have much better predictive measures. When you look at Tyler Anderson, I know it's been a great start for him, and if he gets, looking for a new contract here, I don't know when he's up for a contract. If he can continue this, he's going to tout that ERA, but I guarantee you front offices today are smart enough. They don't care about that, right? They're looking at how can we project future performance, and what they're going to look at are underlying metrics, left on base percentage, batting average on balls in play, hard hit rate, things like FIP and XFIP that summarize pretty well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And when you look under the hood for him, it's not pretty. We project a lot of regression for him going forward. I think it's all smoke and mirrors for Tyler Anderson. Not saying it'll happen here. Don't know what'll happen in one game, but going forward in the long run, we project him to struggle more than succeed going forward. Hunter Brown, kind of the opposite. not completely. A 7.71 ERA, that's definitely inflated by, one or two, terrible starts, whatever. And he hasn't been that good. 5.51 FIP is awful. XFIP at 4.07 though. So that's pretty encouraging. The thing with Hunter Brown, and I said it last time, and I'll say it again this time, the problem he can get into is walks. And that's the big concern I have with him. And that's one of the main components here that we're looking at, the things that the pitcher controls when you walk a guy. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't walk a guy and throw it right down the middle. It's kind of one of those super complicated functions when you think about it, right? You want to not walk a guy because you can get them out. And so if he's just throwing it down the middle, he's going to be giving up home runs, and that's going to show up. If he's nibbling because he can't get guys out, he's going to walk a lot of hitters. You want to be able to get guys out, right? And if nothing else, have them put the ball in play, ideally not that hard, and not walk them. And you want to get guys swinging and missing and striking out, right? So we kind of know in general what you're trying to do, but it's not like you can just cheat the system and just be like, oh, I'm just going to throw pitches down the middle and I'm going to look good. No, you're going to get crushed. You're not going to get strikeouts. And when you look at XFIP, its components are home runs, expected home run rate, strikeouts and walks, and that's the same for FIP. So Hunter Brown, I'm encouraged by. I'm not turned off by that ERA. I'm still high on him. I still think he's a good young pitcher. His walk's the problem. And when I see a 106 grade by his name, I think, yeah, that's probably right. I think he's not bad. I think he's the better pitcher here. If he can ever figure out the walks, his grade should be about 10 points better, should be in the mid-90s. The walks are holding back. And that's what happened last start. He looked really good. I'm pretty sure he walked 2 hitters and gave up a home run. And the solo home run would have been fine. It's the 2 walks in front of it that are the problem. So I've got Hunter Brown here as a slightly better pitcher because those walks are holding him back. And that's the biggest problem for him. I think he's okay. I think Tyler Anderson's all smoke and mirrors. So even though, again, the ERAs are very different, we've got Brown as a better pitcher. The Astros offense is better. The Astros bullpen's better. The Astros should win this game. We've got them winning 68% of the time. If you're looking for the exact recommendation for how to play this, Dub Club is your place to be. Otherwise, it's Astros or pass in one way, shape, or form, in my opinion, here when you're looking at the full game. Run line, -1, money line, parlay, whatever it might be. Again, Dub Club is the place to be for the recommendation of how I think you should play this. But again, we think that the market is giving us a valuable opportunity to back a pitcher who's not quite as bad as his ERA, even though, again, he does have a big wart, and fade a pitcher who is all smoke and mirrors, and specifically a lefty when the Astros historically been hitting lefties pretty well. And that does include 2 of their top hitters, Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez, both being left-handed, hit lefties very well. So Astros in one way, shape, or form for us here on Wednesday afternoon. And then wrapping up the daytime games, Tigers and the Royals, mid-70s for this one. Another one, kind of check back on the win. It's a very similar situation to St. Louis, slightly out, slightly across, not strong, but could make a little bit of a difference here, 1/10 of a run or two, which could kind of put you over the edge potentially. Going to play pretty hitter-friendly in that park, of course, but when you've got these 2 pitchers, it's a very interesting game to watch because these 2, this is must-watch TV, in my opinion, with these 2 pitchers. In this park specifically, because it's like, that's a very hitter-friendly ballpark, top 5 for sure in baseball. But these guys are incredible. Tariq Skubal, the best pitcher, according to Sideline, active pitcher right now, approaching where Spencer Strider and Jacob deGrom would be if they were healthy. 55 innings this year, 180 ERA, sub-2 FIP, XFIP of 252. It is not smoke and mirrors. This is the guy we talked about at the end of last year coming on strong for the Tigers, and he looks just incredible. I love watching this guy pitch. And Cole Reagan's also, very, very good. Not as good as Skubal, but that's a really high bar. 3.70 ERA, and as I mentioned, that's last time he was out there, it was in the 4s, and I said, look, his underlying metrics are fine. He's going to come down. It's going to come down even more if he keeps pitching this way. FIP of 258, XFIP in the low 3s. These are 2 really good lefties. 2 maybe more shaky bullpens, have a few holes, 2 shaky offenses. These pitchers are going to be set up for success based off of the opposing hitters they face, but really how deep they go is going to be a big factor in who wins this game, because whichever pitcher can go deeper is going to give themselves a much stronger chance to avoid some of those bullpen innings. But then the conditions are going to be hitter friendly. So the model is saying, hey, that 7.5 is a little bit low. I'm not running to play this over because of these two starting pitchers and the respect that I have for them. However, we have to understand mid-70s and Kaufman, it's not going to be, what is a warning track fly ball that can get you out of a jam is going to turn into a 3-run home run on a day like this. That could cause some crooked numbers to happen. So I'm not running to play this under because the conditions are not right for it. And if the bullpens get too far involved, that's not right for it either. But again, I don't expect a lot of runs early because he's starting pitcher. So maybe a chance to live bet first 5, or maybe even like a last 5, last 4 type bet, live bet, whatever it may be. Because again, things change a lot when these bullpen comes out. So if you're a live better, this one might have some opportunity for you. The model thinks higher of Scooble. I think what I like about this personally, in backing the Tigers here, Sideline's got them at 55%. It's Tigers or pass for me, and we're 1 penny away from the B grade threshold that the model gives. Again, its highest grade is the fact that Scooble's averaging a little bit deeper into each game. And if he can go a little bit deeper, 1 extra inning than Reagan's, on a good day for him, 2 extra innings, the drop off to these bullpens is large. When you've got the top bullpens, the Clevelands of the world, the Atlantas of the world, et cetera, the drop-off can happen from a really good pitcher because a guy like Scooble, at this point, might be your front runner for the Cy Young Award in the American League. The drop-off can happen for sure, but when you've got, guys like Clase right there, or if you get to the A's, you get to the 8th inning and they got a 2-inning save right for Mason Miller, drop-off isn't that much. Those guys are really good. Tigers and the Royals don't have quite those same bullpens. So it's a big drop-off there. Scooble might go a little bit deeper, and that kind of leans me towards the Tigers here. Not the official pick here, but again, we're 1 cent away from the B-grade price. So if you want to jump with the Tigers, I don't think that's a crazy idea. The total, on the other hand, is just a pass for me. The weather of the park is very different than the starting pitchers, which is very different from the bullpens. It's just a bunch of mixed information, and the total, in my opinion, not worth messing with. To the night games, Brewers and the Marlins, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Freddie Peralta and Jesus Luzardo. Peralta started off the season strong, struggled a little bit more here as of late. Since coming off of the suspension, 4.17 ERA. Underlying metrics still very solid, though. Not concerned about him in the long term. 3.29 xFIP. Projects fairly well. Luzardo's a similar situation, had a little bit of an injury rather than suspension, inflated ERA, but a 3.56 xFIP. Another guy that I'm not concerned about long-term. 2 pitchers that are good, but on occasion do give up some runs randomly. Not the best pitchers in baseball, but still very good, like both of these guys. 2 bullpens that are pretty solid. Again, I mentioned it all season. The Marlins, the biggest problem isn't the bullpen. I know the bullpen was terrible early on, but as I mentioned at the top of the show, I have done the research to know what is predictive and what is not. That's why you're here, to trust me, someone who has the education, the background, the experience with this stuff, and the blow-ups the Marlins bullpen had early on. Underlying metrics said it'll be fine. It was just kind of fluky. Don't worry about it. And that's kind of what we've seen here as of late. The big problem with the Marlins is their offense is terrible. That's why they're in the bottom 5 here, according to Sideline. The Brewers' offense, I don't know what to make of them. What I will say is, first off, you have a night like Tuesday hasn't happened yet. So if you're watching us for Tuesday's game, they're going to score 0 runs or 20 runs right now to make me look silly because that's the way the world goes. But you look at Monday's game, right, where they only put up 2 runs on the Marlins in 10 innings. And one of those was a steal of home, by the way, which, I mean, props. That was pretty slick there, Christian Yelich. But I mean, I want a little bit of a luck kind of thing there. They had a home run. The first one was a home run that missed the center fielder's glove by like a foot, and the second was stealing home, right? And that's the thing sometimes with the Brewers' offense, it just kind of disappears. And that's why the model's not very high on it. They have nights where they look really good, and it's the same kind of thing I've been saying all season. So if you've been with me here, you've heard me say this. The difference between like the 7th best offense and the 22nd best offense really isn't much. I hesitate showing some of these rankings here because I think people get too caught up in them and what it means. And a lot of it's kind of rounding error. There's like the top couple and the bottom few, and then it's like everybody else is just kind of like, you don't know what you're going to get on any given night, any given lefty-righty situation, or just the way the breaks go. And the Brewers are kind of that, you never really know what you're going to get from them. All that said, again, with the good pitching, with the good bullpens, there's a reason this total is really low. I'm not running to play anything over 7.5 ever. That's never my first choice. The model would say lean over. I'm not really sure. Again, these pitchers are good. These bullpens are good. These hitters aren't very good. I don't really think the over makes a lot of sense. The reason that the model is telling us over is that at some point, major league hitters score runs on occasion. But at 7.5 is a low number. I'm not playing the over, I guess, is the bottom line. We are a little bit higher in the Marlins than the market. We've got them winning 46% of the time. The market says 43% of the time. The current price, plus 127, still 7 cents away from the B grade threshold of plus 134. I think the Marlins might make some sense here. The issue is they're still less than 50-50 to win this game. And I don't love taking money line if I'm less than 50-50 to win. That's what the market says. That's what the model says. I think most everybody would agree they're less than 50-50 to win. I don't love taking the run line with the home team. So I think the Marlins might make a lot of sense, but probably only if you're the type of person who wants to have action in every single game. Otherwise, this might be a good opportunity to pass, to say, maybe where there's volume doesn't really seem like, or value doesn't really make it seem like there's a lot of, good reason to do it. And so again, sometimes you could say there's a little bit of value on something, but that doesn't really mean it's worth our investment because there's better places to invest. I think that's kind of the way I feel about this game. Padres and the Reds, a warm night in Cincinnati. Mid-80s to start, around 80 degrees to close. One of the strongest hitting parks in America. Check on the wind on this one. We're talking about 10 to 15 miles an hour, a little bit out, a little bit across. If it's across, it's still going to play insanely hitter-friendly. If it's out, it might play drunk hitter-friendly. There's a reason this total is 9 with a bunch of juice to the over. It's probably going to be 9.5 in most places when you're looking at this. There's a reason why. It's this park and it's this weather, but the wind is going to really kind of tilt it towards maybe the total should actually be 10. Something to think about. Michael King and Nick Martinez, similar ERAs, similar underlying metrics when you look at it. King's xFIP's a little bit better. Martinez's FIP's a little bit better than his xFIP. We've got King as a better pitcher. It's not by much. The biggest thing is that this Reds offense, we just don't really trust at all. They'll score some runs in that park here this summer, but the Padres offense is much better. The Padres bullpen's better because it's meh, as opposed to this Reds bullpen, which we just do not trust. We've got the Padres winning this 58% of the time. And again, if you're able to find a 9, that over makes sense. Maybe first 5 over makes sense. It's Padres or over in some way, shape, or form. Maybe it's Padres team total over. You get run line. You get a lot of options here. You got first 5 options. You got a lot of different ways you can play this between Padres and over. Those are the 2 kind of directions I would look. Again, if you're looking for specific advice on how to play this game, how I think the best way to play this game is between a lot of options that make sense for this Wednesday night game. The Hub Club is the place to be. That link's in the show description. Giants of the Pirates, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, around 80 degrees to start, low 70s to close. Slight breeze blowing in. Going to play pretty neutral for this one as opposed to some of the hitter-friendly situations that we've had here in the past. Blake Snell and Jared Jones will get the start here. Snell, of course, coming off of the IL, struggled in his first 3 starts. Underlying metrics, though, were just fine. And again, ERA is not the most predictive measure in the world. His xFIP of 370 is fine. It's interesting enough to me, you saw last year Blake Snell have an insane ERA and win the Cy Young. And all of us stat nerds, and by the way, I did play baseball in college, so I'm not just the stat nerd who never played baseball. I still play to this day in the old man's league. We're looking at Snell and saying, there's no way he's this good. It's going to come back. He's good. He's not great. And we were all concerned. We were like, how many bases loaded jams did he get? How many times did he walk the bases loaded and then strike 3 guys out or something? We were like, if he keeps doing this, it's going to come back to bite him. And it didn't happen all last year. All last year he was fine. Didn't matter. And then in his 3 starts this year, it's like all that good luck came back. And I am here to tell you folks, if you can remember this one phrase in life, it's usually never as bad as the worst, and it's never as good as the best. It's usually somewhere in the middle. And that's kind of just holds true for a lot of things in life, to be completely honest. He hasn't pitched that bad this year. It's just that this year, when he's walked the bases loaded, the next guy hit a home run. Last year, what happened was he'd walk the bases loaded with 2 outs, strike the guy out, and the leadoff hitter the next inning hit a solo home run. A pitcher doesn't have great control or ability to in that moment pitch better or worse. He's pitching the best he can to every single batter. That wasn't the case. With what year we're in now, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that wasn't the case. The game's different. I'm not here to complain. I'm not here to say better or worse. I'm just telling you the facts. The game's different. Back a long time ago, pitchers didn't throw over pitch 100%. And because of that, you had guys, and I'll never forget, Pedro Martinez used to always talk about this, that get him over fastball, put a little cut on it here in the 7th inning to start off and just try to get him a ground ball to the shortstop here and try to get a guy out in 1 or 2 pitches. You don't see that anymore. Now, every single pitch is thrown as hard as possible. So it takes away any question about, can you get guys out in situations or whatever, because every single situation, they're throwing every pitch as hard as they can because they know every little bit, because they'll just get pulled, because nowadays you don't care who, they'll pull anybody in any situation. So all this is to say, don't be afraid of Blake Snell and his 11.57 ERA. Now, he's got a 95 grade. What does that mean? He's not that good. He wasn't this good last year, right? The truth is in between. He's a solid pitcher. He's not as good as he was before. In that he got really lucky. He's not as bad as he's looked this year. He's been very unlucky. He's just a very okay pitcher, very solid pitcher who pitches in a pitcher-friendly ballpark for the most part. And that's we'll leave it at that. Jerry Jones, though, I don't want to not talk about this guy. He's been fantastic. Obviously, the Paul Skeens love, well-deserved after just an incredible second start. Looking forward to his next start, of course. But Jerry Jones, at this point, don't forget about this guy. 9 starts, 2.89 ERA, 2.73 xFIP. I mean, this kid is the real deal, looking really, really good. The Giants offense, one of those middle-of-the-pack offenses. Don't get caught up in it here. They've got some guys who can hit. They can also disappear. The Pirates, kind of similar, but more on the downside of that. It's more flirting with Marlins territory. Not quite there, but a little bit of a concern for that offense. But the only difference I see between these two offenses is I just feel a little bit more confident the Pirates offense will disappear, but the Giants offense has disappeared on us so much this season. So that's not really that different. I don't really love either one of these offenses. I do love both these starting pitchers. Unfortunately for us, the model does not want us to go under 8. So I would be passing on the total. The side's kind of a similar situation. We're spot on 50-50. The market has the Pirates winning 51% of the time. I don't really think there's a lot of value in either side here. Again, always shop around. Maybe there's a first 5 opportunity for us. Have multiple books in your portfolio. That way, if you do find a really good price, you can fire away. But the model's looking for more like plus 115 or so on either side. And right now, we're not anywhere near that. But if you can shop around, there's some line movement, or maybe there's a first 5 opportunity at a different book. Always want you to find the best price. Save 5 cents, save 10 cents everywhere you can. That adds up in the long run. And that can be the difference between losing and winning, and reloading and not reloading, is making sure you find good prices. If you don't have them yet, BetUS is a great book to add to your repertoire. Still running the promotion. Don't know how long they're going to do it. They're still doing it. I don't have any insight into them. I don't talk to these people. But for now, still doing 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits if you're a new customer. If you haven't signed up yet, there's no reason to delay.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
We will carry on with Rangers and the Phillies. Warm win in Philly. Low 80s to start, low 70s to close. We're going to be blowing out about 10 miles an hour. Going to make it a fairly hitter-friendly environment. No line on this one yet because we have not confirmed both starting pitchers. Right now, just using what Fangraphs has as the projection, Andrew Heaney and Taijuan Walker. Heaney's just very meh. Very solid pitcher. Going to go out and get you some outs. Nothing really too fancy, though. 4.43 ERA, FIP and xFIP both in the low 4s. Just very okay. Taijuan Walker, again, I know he's already 8 innings, but I'm not a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Spencer Turnbull. I'm a big fan of this Phillies rotation. If they had Spencer Turnbull in there instead of Taijuan Walker, I mean, that rotation is like all time insanely good. Taijuan Walker's the one Phillies pitcher that I'm okay fading. Otherwise, I don't really want to fade the Phillies at this point. The Phillies are a really good team. When I look at the prices, most of them on the Phillies, they're really overpriced. I think because it's hot start, because they've made, they're kind of like maybe the up and coming Astros type situation where now they've, made the NLCS back-to-back years. And this rotation is so good in this hot start. I mean, they're just a really good team, and they're getting a lot of love. And the books, are shading the numbers towards the Phillies because everyone knows they're really good. Unfortunately for us, that means we don't really want to back them because we don't want to pay that extra premium because they're still going to lose because even the best teams lose like 50 times. Most of the best teams still lose 60 times, sometimes even 65, 70, right? And the juice you're losing just is going to add up too quickly. So it's really hard to back the Phillies at these prices. They're a really good team, but everybody knows it. And so the counter to that is, like I said, I don't want to fade Nola. I don't want to fade Wheeler. I don't want to fade Suarez. I don't want to fade Sanchez. I love all four of those guys. I think they're really good. But Taijuan Walker's the one guy we're okay fading. That's really the bottom line. I don't think he's very good at all. Otherwise, though, again, nothing to complain about with this Phillies team. This Rangers team, another one in the World Series last year, just looks very average right now. They got a lot of guys hurt. They get no line. Starting pitchers aren't confirmed. We'd have this at the Rangers winning 52% of the time. So check back on Dub Club to see if there's an official pick once we have starting pitchers. And the same goes for Red Sox Rays. Do not have confirmed starting pitchers, but we are projecting Brian Bayo and Ryan Pepio for this one. Two guys who have made 7 starts, have good numbers with regards to the ERA. Bayo's FIP is a little bit high, but both of their xFIPs are pretty low. Pepio is a guy who the grade is not there yet. Kind of an asterisk on him is if he continues to pitch this way. So far, the underlying metrics look great. If he continues to do this, his grade's going to get better and better. Again, we've seen a number of pitchers, he's still a young pitcher, have 7 good starts after struggling the year before. And, you don't want to overreact to that. That said, if this is the real Ryan Pepio, he's better than that grade is the bottom line. So kind of how you feel about that, I think affects that. If this is the real Brian Pepio, his grade's probably pretty close to Bayo's, who's a very good pitcher. Unfortunately, though, we know that historically, if we were just to use a pitcher's 7 starts of the current season and ignore previous seasons, we would be wildly inaccurate overall. Even though we nail some pitchers, we would be wildly inaccurate overall. So not going to ignore previous seasons, but again, just take note that Pepio's going the right direction. And so far, so good for him. Both these offenses, again, like I said, no real difference. Very meh, could look really good, could disappoint. The Rays offense up in the top 10, it's a player-based model. I know they've been terrible. They've had a lot of guys hurt as well. Getting all those guys healthy now is kind of the big deal. They're a whole lot less right-handed heavy now that they've got both the lows back specifically. They still take a ding against righties. They're still fairly right-handed heavy, but they're a little bit less so than they were before. The biggest thing with the Rays offense is that's what carried them last year. It wasn't the bullpen. It ain't the bullpen this year. If they're healthy and some of those guys start hitting, a couple of those guys have done really well. A couple of those guys have been terrible. So biggest thing though with this Rays offense, it's very different than it looked at least a couple of weeks ago. Doesn't mean they're going to do great. Again, I'm not sure I'm sold, but I'm not sold on some of these offenses. So I don't really think it means a whole lot. Again, if it is these two pitchers, we're pretty close to 50-50. Dub Club will be the place for the official pick if there is one on those on these 2 games here. They don't have starting pitchers confirmed yet. Mariners and Yankees, mid-60s for this one. Slight breeze in yet another night where we're going to have a lot of hitter-friendly conditions, but pitcher-friendly conditions in Yankee Stadium. That'll help out Bryce Miller and Nestor Cortez. Both of these guys have good numbers, look great, nothing to complain about. Miller, if he continues to look like this, will eke to the other side of average into the 90s. Again, 100 is average, lower is fewer runs. The thing holding Miller back, he does have that 3.08 ERA. He pitches in the most pitcher-friendly ballpark in America, and that's why his ERA is a little bit lower. His underlying metrics are a little bit higher. And he's going to get benefited by playing in a pitcher-friendly condition here at Yankee Stadium here on Wednesday night. But he's going to be up against the Yankees offense, which will be a little bit of a tougher ask. But he's definitely a good pitcher. But again, that ERA is probably a little bit misleading because the park he plays in. Same thing with the Mariners relievers. They're not bad, but the model's not really too high of them because of that park. And the same thing about the Yankees relievers. And I said this before Monday night's game. I was like, the model's saying, hey, they're maybe not quite as good as that combined ERA. And you saw Monday night, you saw kind of the first part of that was the Yankees blew a big lead. I'm not saying the Yankees relievers are bad. They're, it's right before the cliff falls off here at this point. They're 25, but it's rounding error to 19. That's really not going to make much of a big difference to the model. The model's just not completely sold and thinks again that a lot of the good numbers have been luck and playing in a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark, and a lot of those games have been in really pitcher-friendly conditions and potentially playing some of the weaker offenses here. So thinking that the Yankees offense will be the thing that has to carry them against a kid in Bryce Miller. Again, good, but again, probably not quite as good as that ERA because the park he pitches in, Cortez, is solid, having another solid year. Nothing really special to say there. We've got the Yankees winning this 61% of the time. The market's got it at 58%. I always say with the Yankees, if there's any value, just go ahead and jump on it early. Our people on Dub Club, we've talked about this. You're getting all this information way early if you're with us on Dub Club. And so you've probably already heard this. If you're a person who likes to have a few more plays, the Yankees might not be an official pick, but the current market price of minus 148 is better than what the model says of minus 154. If you're going to play more plays, the Yankees here at minus 148, it's a pretty reasonable play. Doesn't mean they'll win. It just means that there's not usually a lot of value in the Yankees. It's hard to find it. They've done really well this year. So anytime you can find an excuse to back them, I don't think it's crazy. So it'd be Yankees or pass for me. Again, really just depends on your threshold of how many plays you want. Again, by the time you watch this, maybe that number's higher. Again, that's why we get all the information out as early as possible to everybody on Dub Club. Then moving forward here to the White Sox and the Blue Jays, the last of the 7 o'clock starts. Upper 60s in Toronto. Might open the roof for this one. Mike Clevinger and Chris Bassett, 2 pitchers with ERAs in the 5s, 2 pitchers with underlying metrics that diverge a little bit from that, with Clevinger being a little bit better, but not by much, with Bassett being probably a decent bit better than that. And that's the biggest discrepancy between these two pitchers with regards to their grades. Clevinger, one of the weakest in baseball. Anytime your FIP and XFIP are both in the 5s, that doesn't bode well. It's only 11 innings, but it's not like he was good last year as well. White Sox offense, we don't trust at all. The Blue Jays offense, very similar to the Rays at this point. Right-handed heavy, hasn't done very well. Don't know who else to trust, though, because of these offenses. So many of them are banged up, or incomplete, or have been disappointing, or they've done well, but it's like, how much of that smoke and mirror? So I guess the Blue Jays offense is good. I'm not really that sold on them. I'm not sold on the Blue Jays bullpen, but I'm definitely not sold on the White Sox bullpen. This is all Blue Jays are pass at these current prices. The White Sox price is not good enough to back, and I'm not dying to back Mike Clevinger anyway. We've got the Blue Jays winning a 69% of the time, where the market has winning a less nice 67% of the time. So again, if you're looking for information on how to play some of these other games where the edges are a little bit smaller, again, Dub Club is the place to be. The Discord chat, we can talk about any of these games that you're interested in, but it's a steep price on the Blue Jays. But I would not be playing the White Sox. Might be looking at the under on this one. If you are believing the model of 8.27 as the total's 8.5, just never love going under 8.5. Never love going under with these bullpens, maybe your first 5 under. Got a lot of different ways you can look at this one. Again, Dub Club is the place to be if you want that information. Braves and the Cubs, 7:40 p.m. Eastern, last of the early games before we get to a couple of late ones. Max Fried and Justin Steele will give it a go at a pretty nice night in Chicago. Upper 60s, slight breeze blowing out. Might make it slightly hitter-friendly, which the hitters are going to need going up against these two pitchers. Max Fried, again, continuing to look really solid. Really just kind of after that first terrible couple starts, just ho-humming along with sub-4 ERA, FIP, and XFIP. Just a very solid pitcher, rising to the top 10, mainly on the strength of some of the injuries. Otherwise, he'd be outside the top 10. Very good. Maybe not quite top of the top, but still a very good pitcher. Justin Steele has struggled a little bit in his 4 starts with that ERA, with the bad start there, but the XFIP of 396, I still think he's very good. The Braves offense, obviously very good. Braves bullpen, very good. The Cubs, a little bit more average offensively, struggling in the pen. We've got the Braves winning this 58% of the time. The market says 56% of the time. It's Braves or pass. And as usual, no total on a game in Wrigley at this early juncture because we do not know exactly what the weather will do, and that'll make a big difference. We are seeing that on Tuesday night where I had the projected total of like 9.5, and then wake up, plug the weather in the model on Tuesday morning, and the projected totals 10.7 all of a sudden, 10.8 maybe even. I can't remember which one it was. And so we've got a Tuesday night game that might get really drunk. And again, I'm recording this before it happens, and you might be watching it afterwards, so I might look really stupid by saying this, but really hitter-friendly weather on Tuesday night when we thought it would be hitter-friendly. When I recorded it, it turned out to be insanely hitter-friendly. Same thing here. Like, we don't really know. That change could happen again. So again, the weather information subject to change and matters the most in Wrigley, because without the grandstands, that wind really matters there, and it can get really strong coming off the lake. as well. So looking like a hitter-friendly night. Otherwise, this total will be a lot lower because the Braves bullpen's good, Max Fried's good, Steele's good, but the hitter-friendly nature of the night's kind of bumping our projected total maybe more from 8 to 8.5-ish, give or take. Two late games. First one, Rockies and the A's, around 60 to mid-60s to start, around 60 to close. Wind will be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Going to play like a normal night in Oakland. Not really overly pitcher-friendly, but not hitter-friendly whatsoever either. Just, again, slightly favorable to the pitchers like it is on average. Not the coldest night, again, but not hitter-friendly either. Austin Gomber and Joey Estes. Estes in his 2 starts, 1 good start, 1 bad start. Model's not overly high on him at this point, 123 grade. Austin Gomber does have a 3.02 ERA, and he's had some decent times in a past life with the Cardinals, of course. xFIP of 444 is a little concerning because he's up to 50 innings already. And that's such a deviation from that 3.02 ERA. And I know part of it starts from Coors. It's kind of an interesting situation. Coors has had some pretty pitcher-friendly nights, though. I don't know if he pitched in any of those. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's definitely a different picture when you look at his xFIP and a rare guy whose ERA is really outperforming it. I don't quite know what to make of that. I'm just going to default to the underlying metrics for Gomber say that he's probably not that good still. Now, he's still at least a decent, respectable, not terrible, I guess. I don't know what adjective to use here because, it's kind of like once you get to the 120s, that's where we start getting the mid 1-teens. Maybe we start getting concerned. He's not good, but he's not a terrible major league pitcher. And Estes doesn't have a lot of data, young guy. But again, I think Gomer's the better pitcher. I'm just not sure by how much, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This A's bullpen, again, pretty solid. The Rockies just aren't a good team, and that's the bottom line. I mentioned yesterday we aren't giving the A's a ton of home field edge here, but we've got them winning 56% of the time. So kind of as I said on Tuesday, it's for Tuesday's games, the A's are pass. I don't really like backing the Rockies on the road. We've got it 56%. The market says 51, and we are inside that B grade threshold, better than minus 113. It's not minus 110. Like I said, it's A's are pass, and again, the total I think is priced pretty well. Model might lean over, but I'm not running to play it over 7.5 again, ever. And then wrapping us up, Diamondbacks and the Dodgers, mid to upper 50s, slight breeze out, but the cooler temperatures are going to make this play pitcher friendly. Ryan Nelson, not good. 7.06 ERA, FIP and xFIP both at 4.17, which isn't terrible, but again, it's not good. And he was worse last year with regards to those underlying metrics. So one of the worst pitchers in baseball. Tyler Glass now rounding error, again, tied for best pitcher in baseball in that top 3 with Skubal and Zach Wheeler. I don't know what else to say about Glass now. Really good. 2.90 ERA, 2.57 FIP, 2.37 xFIP. Really, really good. That's really all there is to say there. Other than that, the Dodgers have a big offensive advantage because they do against almost anybody. They have some incredible bats. Don't sleep on the Diamondbacks bats. The issue is here, when you've got a big starting pitcher discrepancy like that, you have to think the Dodgers are going to be big favorites, and they are. We've got them winning the same percentage of the time as the market does. We're both at 71%. So really no value one way or the other. This is one of those situations where, at least at the current numbers, the bottom line is sometimes weird things happen and teams lose baseball games that they shouldn't. And that's the problem with playing the Dodgers at minus 272. That said, like, they should win this game. I think they win it just like the market does it, 7 out of 10 times. It's just the issue is if you lose 3 out of 10 at minus 272, that's a losing proposition. You're going to lose money doing that. So, Dodgers are really good. Tyler Glasnow, really good. They're big favorites. They should be big favorites. At the current price, I can't back the Dodgers. Can't really fade them either, though. And the total looks pretty spot on, too. So a game where we are just really in sync here with the market, wrapping us up here Wednesday night. That's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. Again, Dub Club is the place to be for more picks, A grades, play of the day, predictions, information, details galore. If you're enjoying the show, check us out over there and see if you cannot, gain some more information. We do appreciate everyone who's already over on Dub Club. And again, if you're not yet, check it out with the link in the show description. We'd appreciate your support. Otherwise, though, best of luck. And as always, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.